My son invited me to a business dinner with a Japanese client. I stayed silent and pretended not to understand Japanese, but then I heard my son say something that froze my blood. I could not believe what I was hearing. He raised his sake cup and smiled with that confidence I had seen so many times. But this time his words were not directed at me. He was speaking in Japanese with Mr. Takahashi, the businessman sitting across from him, and every syllable was like a knife sinking into my chest. これはただの母です。彼女の意見は無視してください. This is just my mother. Please ignore her opinions. I kept my smile. That smile I had perfected over 67 years of life. The same one I used when my husband died and I had to be strong for David. The same one I wore when I sold the house where I had built my memories to give my only son the opportunity of his dreams. But inside something was breaking. A fine glass that had been cracking for 3 years was finally shattering. My name is Eleanor Vance. For 35 years, I was a language professor at the American International Institute. I taught French, English, and Japanese to hundreds of students. Many of them became diplomats, translators, international businessmen. But to my son in that moment, I was simply an old woman who understands nothing about business. David continued talking, and every word was worse than the last. 彼女はここにいますなぜなら、この週末子供たちの世話が必要だったからです. She is here because I needed someone to watch the kids this weekend. Mr. Takahashi looked at me with that Japanese courtesy I knew so well. He bowed his head slightly as a sign of respect, a respect that my own son did not give me, neither in his language nor in mine. April, my daughter-in-law, leaned forward, showing more cleavage than necessary. She tried to speak English with an accent she considered sophisticated, but sounded forced and ridiculous. Mr. Takahashi, my husband is a self-made man, very successful. I felt like laughing. Self-made. If only she knew, if only Mr. Takahashi knew that this self-made man had used the $450,000 from the sale of my house to start this business he now bragged about as his own. But I said nothing. Not yet. I took a sip of my green tea and observed. I watched how my son lied with ease. I watched how April flirted without elegance. I watched how Mr. Takahashi seemed uncomfortable, but polite, as an honorable Japanese man should be. And then came the phrase that would change everything. Mr. Takahashi asked in Japanese, "Why is your honorable mother so quiet?" In our culture, the elders are the first to speak. David cleared his throat. He lowered his voice a little, as if I could not hear him. 彼女は認知症の初期段階にあります。一人にしておきたくなかったので連れてきました. She has early onset dementia. I did not want to leave her alone at home. That is why I brought her. There it was, the biggest lie, the final betrayal. My son had just told a foreign businessman that his mother was losing her mind, that I was there not as a guest, not as the woman who had raised him alone after his father died, but as a burden he could not leave at home. I squeezed the cloth napkin against my lap. I felt my hands shaking slightly, not from weakness, but from a cold fury that was beginning to wake up after years of sleep. Before I continue with my story, if these confessions touch something in your heart, subscribe to the channel. Here we share real stories of women who found their voice when they thought they had lost it forever. I let the scene continue. I smiled when I had to smile. I nodded when they expected me to nod. I was the invisible mother, the decorative old lady that David needed to look like a good son in front of his Japanese client. But every word I heard in that elegant restaurant downtown was etched into my memory. Every lie, every humiliation, and somewhere deep in my being, where I kept the dignity I had inherited from my own mother. I began to weave a plan. Because you see, David's mistake was underestimating two things, my memory and my intelligence. During 35 years, I taught my students that language is not just communication, It is power. It is understanding what others think you do not understand. And I had just understood perfectly what my son thought of me. The question was no longer if I was going to do something about it. The question was when. To understand how I arrived at that table, pretending not to understand the language I had taught for decades. I need to take you back 3 years, to the day that changed everything. Charles, my husband, had died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack on a Tuesday afternoon while watering the hydrangeas in our garden in the suburbs. He fell among the purple flowers he loved so much, and when I found him, he was already gone. The house became too big for me alone. 3 bedrooms, a study full of books in 4 languages, a garden that Charles had cared for with religious devotion. Every corner whispered memories that hurt as much as they comforted. But it was mine, paid for with years of honest work, of waking up at 5 in the morning to teach classes at 7, of grading exams until midnight. It was the fruit of 35 years of dedication. Then David arrived one Sunday afternoon. He had April hanging from his arm like an expensive accessory. They had just gotten married 3 months prior in a wedding that cost me another $20,000 because, Mom, he is your only son. You cannot be stingy. Mom, I need to talk to you about something important, David said while April checked her phone without even saying hello. I prepared a fresh pot of coffee, the one he liked since he was a boy. I served the sweet pastries from the local bakery. I sat across from my son with that mix of love and worry that only a mother knows. I have a golden opportunity, he began. His eyes shone with that excitement I knew well. An import business for Japanese technology, high-end office supplies, specialized stationery, devices. The market is untouched here, Mom. I can be the first. I listened for an hour. Numbers, projections, dreams wrapped in spreadsheets. April interrupted occasionally with comments about our future and the life we deserve. How much do you need? I finally asked. $400,000 to start. The location, the initial inventory, the permits, the equipment. That is a lot of money, son. That is why I came to you, Mom. He leaned forward, taking my hands with that warmth that made me forget any doubt. I know the house is worth more than that. If you sell it and support me with this, I promise you we will be partners. 50-50. Your money, my work, together like always. David, this house is the only thing I have. Your father and I. Mom. April interrupted me for the first time, looking directly at me. Do not be selfish. What are you going to do with such a big house? David is your only son. Do you not want to see him succeed? Selfish. That word stuck like a splinter. Besides, David continued, you can come live with us. We have plenty of room. The kids will need their grandmother close. Grandchildren. The magic word that disarms any mother. We do not need papers between us, he added when I mentioned drawing up a contract. We are family, Mom. Family trusts. Or do you not trust your own son? That question. That damn question that manipulators disguised as victims use. I signed the sale papers 2 weeks later. The house sold for $450,000. I gave everything to David, every single dollar, everything Charles and I had built in 40 years of marriage. I am going to pay you back with interest, Mom. In 2 years, you will be living off the profits. You are going to be proud. We never signed anything. Not a contract, not a promissory note, not even a formal receipt, because we are family. I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Nothing luxurious, but decent. My furniture, my books, my memories compressed into 700 square feet. Charles' garden of hydrangeas was left in the hands of strangers. The first months were difficult. Waking up in a place that did not know my steps, cooking on a stove that was not mine, looking out a window that did not face the garden where Charles had fallen. But David visited me. He brought the kids. Matthew was 4. Rachel was 2. He called me every week to tell me how the business was going. It is going slow, Mom, but it is going well. These things take time. I waited. I trusted, because he was my son. Then April got pregnant with the third. She lost the baby at 4 months. It was devastating for them. And I was there, cooking, cleaning, taking care of Matthew and Rachel while they went through their grief. I do not know what we would do without you. April told me one night, and for a moment I thought she finally saw me. But something changed after that loss, as if April had decided that the world owed her something, and I was part of that world that had to pay. The visits became different. Mom, can you come watch the kids? April needs to rest. Mom, can you make your special roast? We have guests. Mom, can you stay with them this weekend? We are going to the lake house. The lake house. That meant money. A lot of money. But when I asked about the business, the answers were vague. It is going well, Mom. Slow, but well. A year after giving him the money, I asked to speak about how things were going, about when we would see profits, about formalizing everything on paper. David got annoyed for the first time with me. Papers. Now you want papers. Do you not trust your son? It is not mistrust, David. It is order, protection for both of us. Mom, I am a man of my word. The business is in a growth phase. I cannot be thinking about bureaucracy right now. April added her poison. Oh, are we starting with mistrust? How ugly that looks on a mother. I left their house that day without having eaten, without having hugged my grandkids, with a knot in my stomach that would not go away. 2 years. I had been waiting 2 years for my son to keep his word. Meanwhile, on social media, I saw photos of them in expensive restaurants. April with designer bags. David with a watch that cost more than I spent in 6 months. But there was never money to pay me back what was mine. We are still investing in growth, Mom. You have to understand how business works. Understand. As if I were ignorant. As if 35 years of work and managing my own household had taught me nothing. The calls became less frequent. The visits, too. Now he only looked for me when he needed something. And I, like an idiot, always said yes. Because he was my son. Because I was afraid of losing him. Because mothers are taught that love is measured in sacrifice. In silence. In giving until you have nothing left to give. Until that night at the Japanese restaurant when I heard my son call me demented. There I understood that I had already lost him a long time ago. The question was, when had I stopped seeing him? I woke up the morning after the dinner with Mr. Takahashi feeling something strange in my chest. It was not pain. It was clarity. Like when you clean a dirty window and suddenly you see everything that was on the other side. I made myself coffee in my small kitchen. The sun entered shyly through the window that faced the building across the street. Nothing like the garden of my old house, but it was mine. This tiny space was all I had left. The phone rang at 9 in the morning. David. Mom, how did you wake up? I hope dinner last night did not sit heavy with you. His voice sounded normal, casual, as if nothing had happened, as if he had not called me demented in front of a stranger. I am fine, son. Good. Listen, I need to ask you a favor. Of course, the favors. Always the favors. April has an appointment at the spa this Saturday. You know how she is. She needs her relaxation time. Could you come take care of Matthew and Rachel? I have a meeting with some suppliers. At what time? Early, around 8. The kids eat cereal. Nothing complicated. I just need you to be with them until 6 or 7 in the evening. 11 hours. 11 hours watching my grandkids while my son worked and my daughter-in-law got her nails done. Could you pick me up? The subway to your neighborhood is far. Oh, Mom, it is out of my way. Take an Uber. I will pay you back later. Later. That word that means never. It is fine, David. You are the best mom. The kids adore you. He hung up without saying goodbye, like always. I stayed staring at the phone. I remembered when David was little and called me running from school. Mommy. Mommy. I got an A on the test. He ran to me with open arms and hugged me with that pure strength that only children have. Where had that boy gone? On Saturday, I arrived at his house in the hills at 8 sharp. I took 2 buses and an Uber that cost me $25. David was already gone. April came out in branded sweatpants, hair perfectly styled, nails freshly done. "Oh, good that you arrived. The kids are watching TV. There is fruit in the fridge. Do not let them eat too much sugar, okay? I will be back around 7. 7 at night. Oh, around there. After the spa, I have lunch with some friends. Networking." She left in her white BMW, networking, while I, who had worked 35 years, did not even have enough to pay for a taxi back. Matthew was 7 years old now, Rachel 5. They were beautiful. They had their father's eyes, their grandfather Charles' smile. Grandma Rachel yelled when she saw me. She ran to hug me. At least she still got excited to see me. Matthew barely looked up from the iPad. "Hi, Grandma." "What are you watching, my love?" "Videos." The conversation ended there. A 7-year-old boy already learning to be indifferent. I prepared breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, fruit that I brought from my house because in theirs there was only imported organic bread. Rachel ate with an appetite. Matthew picked at the food. "Mom says we should eat low carb." "You are 7 years old, Matthew. Carbs are good for you." "Mom says no." April, always April, her voice present even when she was not. We spent the day playing. Well, I tried to play. Rachel wanted me to read her stories. Matthew wanted to go back to the iPad. "Can you tell me about when my dad was a boy?" Rachel asked while looking through a princess book. "Your dad was mischievous. Once he climbed the tree in the garden and did not want to come down. Your grandfather, Charles, had to climb up for him." "Did we have a garden?" "Yes, my love. A beautiful garden with purple hydrangeas." "Why do you not have a garden anymore?" The innocent question of a 5-year-old girl. The question that hurt more than 1,000 reproaches. "Because I sold the house to help your dad with his business." "And did he pay you?" Matthew looked up from the iPad for the first time in hours. "Adults do not talk about money with children," I said softly. "Mom and Dad talk about money all the time," Matthew replied. "Dad says money is the most important thing, that without money you are nobody." 7 years old. A 7-year-old boy had already learned that. Money is important, I told him. But there are more valuable things, like love, respect, your word. "Your word does not buy toys," Matthew said, returning to his screen. I stayed quiet, because he was right. In the world that David and April were building for these children, your word was worth nothing. April returned at 9 at night. 2 hours late, she brought shopping bags from the mall. "Oh, sorry, time got away from me. Did the kids behave?" "Very well, they are already asleep." "Perfect. Do you want me to order you an Uber?" She gave me $40, less than what I had spent getting there, on the food I prepared, in the 11 hours of my day. "Thanks for everything. You are a sweetheart." The Uber left me at my apartment at 10 at night. I climbed the stairs slowly. My knees were not what they used to be. I entered my small space and sat in the armchair I brought from my old living room, and I cried. I cried for the garden of hydrangeas, for Charles, who was no longer there to tell me what to do, for the $450,000 that had evaporated, for the boy who ran to hug me, and the man who now used me as an unpaid employee. I cried for me, for the woman I had been and the one I was becoming. But while I cried, something else grew inside me, something cold and determined, because you see, I was not a woman without resources. I was not ignorant. I had navigated educational systems, institutional politics, union negotiations for decades. What made me think I could not navigate this? I dried my tears. I made myself chamomile tea. I opened my old laptop and began to investigate. Family loan laws, documentary evidence, bank transfers, reclamation rights. If David wanted to play the successful businessman, it was time he learned that business is not done just with pretty words. It is done with contracts. And although we did not have a signed paper, I had something better. I had truth, and bank transfers do not lie. I returned to that night, to that restaurant downtown where the sake cups shone under dim lights, and my world crumbled in a language I mastered perfectly. The waiter had served the second course. Sashimi arranged like art on porcelain plates. David ordered without looking at me, assuming I would eat whatever he chose, like always. Mr. Takahashi was a man of about 50 years, hair perfectly combed, with gray at the temples, impeccable dark suit, that type of discreet elegance that comes from generations of education, not from new money. He reminded me of many of my Japanese students, that courtesy that is not faked, but part of the soul. "Your mother is very quiet," he commented in Japanese while taking a piece of sashimi with his chopsticks. He did it perfectly, effortlessly. David smiled, that smile I had seen 1,000 times when he wanted to impress someone. "Kanojo wa itsumo shizuka desu, amari hanashimasen." She is always quiet. She does not talk much. But what he did not say was more revealing, his tone. That way of referring to me as if I were an old piece of furniture that needs to be tolerated. April interrupted in her forced English. She leaned toward Mr. Takahashi, showing the neckline of her wine-colored blouse. Too provocative for a business dinner, but April had never understood the difference between elegance and vulgarity. "We are very excited about this partnership, Mr. Takahashi. This contract will change our lives." Mr. Takahashi smiled with courtesy, but I saw the flash in his eyes. Discomfort. Japanese men of his generation did not respond well to that type of direct flirtation. They considered it a lack of seriousness. "The contract is significant," he replied in Japanese. $85,000 monthly for 3 years. I need to ensure my company is doing business with serious people. David straightened in his chair, chest puffed out, ego at the maximum. "Watashi wa jibun de kokomade kimashita, Takahashi-san. Dare no tasuke mo nakatta. I arrived here alone, Mr. Takahashi, without anyone's help." My hand squeezed the tea glass. Without anyone's help. $450,000 apparently was nobody. "Impressive," Mr. Takahashi responded. "Entrepreneurship without family capital is very difficult. How did you achieve it?" Here it came. Here came the lie. "I worked hard. I saved for years. Smart investments. I negotiated with suppliers. I risked everything I had." "Everything he had. Everything I had. You mean son." April added in Spanish, believing Takahashi did not understand. "My husband is a business genius. I knew since I met him that he was going to succeed." She met him when he already had my money in his bank account. How convenient. Mr. Takahashi took a sip of sake. He looked directly at me for the first time in the night. "Mrs. Vance, what do you think of your son's business?" David tensed up. I saw it. That micro-expression of panic before his mask returned to its place. "My mother does not understand much about business," he rushed to say in English. But Takahashi had asked in Japanese and expected an answer. I smiled. That empty smile I had perfected. I nodded, as if I did not understand. David breathed relieved. "Kanojo wa toshi ote imasu, bijinesu no koto wa yoku wakarimasen." She is old. She does not understand much about business. Old, as if being old meant being stupid. Mr. Takahashi frowned slightly. In Japanese culture, looking down on elders is unforgivable. I saw it. I saw how his perception of David began to change. But my son did not notice. He continued talking, more and more confident, more arrogant. "My mother worked as a teacher all her life. Good woman, but never had business vision. She lives comfortably from her pension." Comfortably, I lived in a 700-square-foot apartment after having a 3,000-square-foot house. I'd stopped going to the dentist because I could not pay for the root canal I needed. I wore the same clothes for 3 years. But of course, for him, that was comfortable. "I understand," said Mr. Takahashi. His tone had cooled a little. Then came the moment. the moment that would remain etched in my soul forever. "Why did you bring your mother tonight?" Takahashi asked directly. Usually these dinners are only between business partners. David hesitated. Only a second, but enough for me to know something bad was coming. He looked around, verified that the waiter was not close. He leaned slightly forward. "Jitsu wa Takahashi-san. Actually, Mr. Takahashi. Kanojo wa ninchisho no shoki dankai ni arimasu. She has early onset dementia." The world stopped. "Hitori ni shite okitaku nakata no de tsurete kimashita. Kanojo wa tamani konran shimasu. Demo yoru wa motto waruku narimasu. Dakara mite iru hitsuyo ga arimasu." I did not want to leave her alone. That is why I brought her. Sometimes she gets confused, but at night she gets worse. That is why I need to watch her. April nodded with feigned concern. It has been difficult for us, but family is family. You know? Mr. Takahashi looked at me with a completely different expression now. It was no longer professional courtesy. It was pity. Pity for the poor, demented old woman who did not even know where she was. I took a sip of my tea. I kept my face serene. But inside, something broke so completely that I knew I would never be who I had been. My son, my only son. The boy I had carried in my womb. The one I had fed with my body. The one I had raised alone after his father died. Had called me demented to look good with a client. He had used me as a prop, as evidence that he was a good son caring for his sick mother. "I think it is admirable that you care for your mother," said Mr. Takahashi in Japanese. David smiled. He took April's hand on the table. "It is the least I can do. After all, she gave me life. Caring for her in her old age is my duty." Duty, what a convenient word. "In Japan," continued Mr. Takahashi, "elders are revered, their words are wisdom. Does your mother speak?" "Sometimes she babbles things." David laughed lightly, as if it were funny, but nothing coherent. April added, "Last week she insisted that we had promised to pay her something. You see how they get." They laughed, both of them. My son and his wife laughed at the confused old woman who insisted they return her money. Mr. Takahashi did not laugh. "Did you promise her something?" No. David rushed to clarify. "They are things of her imagination. The doctor says it is normal in her condition." "What doctor? I had never gone to any doctor. I did not even know I was supposedly sick." The dinner continued. They talked about contract terms, delivery dates, percentages, and profits. I remained in silence, observing, learning. I learned that my son was a better liar than I had thought. I learned that April was an active accomplice, not an innocent victim. I learned that both had built a narrative where I was the crazy one and they were the suffering saints. But I also learned something more important. I learned that Mr. Takahashi was a man of honor. I saw how his body language changed, how his answers became shorter, how that initial enthusiasm cooled with every disrespectful word David said about me. In Japanese culture, you can lie about many things, but you cannot disrespect your elders and expect respect in return. David was digging his own grave and did not even know it. The dinner ended close to 11 at night. Mr. Takahashi said goodbye with perfect courtesy. "I will review the terms and contact you next week." David practically glowed with excitement. April was already planning out loud how they would spend the money. No one asked me how I was going to get home. No one offered to drive me. "Mom, are you okay? Is it not too late for you?" I nodded. I smiled. I babbled something incoherent. David nodded, satisfied. "We called you an Uber. Here's the code." They put me in a car without even waiting for it to leave. They went to their BMW, holding hands, celebrating their brilliant future. In the back seat of the Uber, I finally let the mask fall. The driver looked at me through the rearview mirror. "Are you okay, ma'am?" "Yes," I responded in perfect English, clear, without a shred of confusion. "I am perfectly fine." He looked at me strangely but said nothing more. I arrived at my apartment past midnight. I entered, locked the door, And then, only then, did I allow myself to feel the magnitude of what had happened. I sat in my old armchair, the same one where Charles sat to read, the same one we had bought at the flea market 30 years ago. And I understood something with crystal clarity. I could not cry anymore. I could not wait anymore. I could not continue being the invisible mother who allowed everything for fear of losing her son, because I had already lost him. The boy that was David had died a long time ago. Or maybe he never existed in the way I believed. What remained was a man capable of calling his mother demented to impress a stranger. And that man was going to learn a lesson I should have taught him years ago, that mothers are not stupid, that silence is not weakness, and that underestimating a 67-year-old woman who survived decades of teaching defiant teenagers was the biggest mistake he could commit. I got up, I turned on my laptop, and I began to write an email in perfect Japanese directed to Mr. Takahashi. The cursor blinked on the screen. My fingers trembled over the keyboard, not from fear, from fury contained for too long. But I stopped. It was not the moment to act on impulse. It was not the moment to let emotion guide my decisions. During 35 years, I taught hundreds of students that true intelligence is not in reacting, but in planning. I closed the laptop. I made myself lime tea. I sat on my small balcony where I kept 3 pots with mint and rosemary. Nothing compared to my garden before, but it was life. And life always finds a way to grow even in the smallest spaces. I thought about Charles, about what he would do. Charles was a quiet man. He worked in the maintenance department of the General Hospital. He was not a doctor or anyone important, but he was respected because his word was worth something, because when he said something, he did it. My daughter used to tell me when I arrived frustrated from some meeting at school, the people who scream the loudest are not the ones who are right. They are the ones who are most afraid. Those who are right, wait, plan, and act when the moment is perfect. The moment is perfect. I needed to understand exactly what position I was in, what I had, what I lacked. I took out my old notebook, the one where for years I noted the house expenses. Yes, I was one of those who write down every dollar that enters and leaves. Charles teased affectionately, "You look like an IRS auditor woman." But that habit of writing everything down was about to save me. I checked, page by page. I found the exact date, March 15th, 3 years ago, sale of house, $450,000. Underneath, with my careful handwriting, transfer to David Vance for import business, verbal partnership, return in 2 years. I kept looking. Every dollar I had given him after, small loans that added up. May, $15,000 for urgent municipal permit. July, $25,000 for computer equipment. October, $30,000 for trip to Japan for suppliers. In 3 years, the total was $520,000, and I did not have a single signed paper. I got up. I went to my small filing cabinet, the one I saved from my previous house. I searched in the drawer marked bank. There they were, all the transfer receipts, every damn dollar documented. It was not a contract, but it was evidence. The next morning, I showered. I dressed in my gray tailored suit that I kept for important occasions. I put on light makeup. I saw myself in the mirror. There I was, Eleanor Vance, 67 years old, retired professor, widow, betrayed mother, but also educated woman, intelligent, with documentation, with perfect memory, and with a plan forming in my head. First stop, the bank. Good morning. I need the complete account statement for the last 3 years. All transfers, especially the ones I made to this account. I gave her David's account number that I had memorized. The employee, a girl of about 30, looked at me with that mix of respect and pity they give to old ladies. Is it for something legal, ma'am, could be? She gave me everything, 22 pages of transfers, every deposit documented with date, time, amount. Second stop. Visit Sarah. Sarah had been my student 20 years ago, a brilliant girl who stuttered terribly when speaking French, but who had a gift for numbers. I had patience with her. We worked together after school for 2 years. She graduated as an accountant. Now she had her own firm. She never forgot the teacher who believed in her when others mocked. Professor Vance. She received me with a hug. How long has it been? How are you? We sat in her modern office. Big windows, plants, framed diploma on the wall. Sarah, I need your help and I need your discretion. I told her everything, every detail, the sale of my house, the promise of partnership, the years of silence, the revealing dinner. Sarah listened without interrupting. Her face went from surprise to indignation. Professor, this is family fraud. We have to act. I need to know first what legal position I am in. Let me investigate. I have a lawyer friend specialized in civil and family matters. But tell me, do you have any evidence? I took out my 22 pages from the bank, my notebook, the WhatsApp messages where David asked me for the loans. Sarah whistled softly. Professor, you were always the most organized. You see, that is why you forced us to keep records of everything in class. I laughed for the first time in days, the habits of an old teacher. Not old, wise, there is a difference. I left there with a copy of everything on a USB drive and Sarah's promise to contact her lawyer friend. Third stop, something I needed to do for myself. I went to a coffee shop near my apartment. I ordered a black coffee. I took out my cell phone and finally wrote the email I had been composing in my head all night. Dear Mr. Takahashi, I apologize for contacting you directly, but I feel the need to clarify some things I heard during dinner last night. My name is Eleanor Vance. I am the mother of David Vance, your potential business partner. Contrary to what my son informed you, I do not suffer from dementia nor any mental illness. I am a retired professor from the American International Institute, where I taught Japanese language for 35 years. I understand Japanese perfectly. I heard every word of your conversation. I feel the moral obligation to inform you of certain facts that I consider relevant to your business decision. 1. My son's initial capital came from the sale of my family house, $450,000. 2. This money was given under verbal promise of 50% partnership. 3. There is no formal contract between us. 4. In 3 years, I have not received a single dollar of return. 5. My son told you he got to where he is without anyone's help. That is false. I do not seek to sabotage my son's business, but in your culture, as in the one I respect deeply, truth and family honor are fundamental. A man who lies about his mother and slanders her as demented, what lies will he tell his business partners? I leave this information to your judgment. You are a man of honor. You will know what to do with it, with respect and admiration for your culture. Eleanor Vance, Professor Emeritus. I read the email 3 times. I changed some words. I made it less emotional, more factual, more Japanese in its approach. My finger stayed on the send button. Was I really going to do this? Was I going to sabotage my own son's business? But then I remembered his voice. Kanojo wa ninchisho no shoki dankai ni arimasu. I remembered his laugh, April's laugh, Mr. Takahashi's looks of pity. I remembered every time he called me just to ask for something, every time he treated me like an employee, every time I asked for my money and he made me feel greedy. My son was no longer the boy who ran to hug me. He was a man capable of destroying his mother's dignity to look good with a stranger, and I was no longer the mother willing to sacrifice everything. I was a woman claiming her right to exist with dignity. I pressed send. The email went. There was no turning back. I stayed looking at the screen. My coffee cooled in front of me. outside. The city continued its frantic rhythm. No one knew that in that small coffee shop, a 67-year-old woman had just declared a silent war. My phone vibrated. Sarah. Professor. I spoke with Robert, the lawyer. He says you have a case. The bank transfers are valid evidence. There is jurisprudence on family loans and verbal promises. He wants to see you tomorrow morning. I responded, I will be there. That night, I slept better than in years, not because I was at peace, but because I had finally stopped being a victim. I had chosen to be a warrior. Robert Mendez had a small firm in the suburbs, nothing luxurious, but organized. Diplomas on the wall, law books stacked on every available surface. It smelled like coffee and old paper. He was a man of about 40, short beard, glasses, that appearance of a university professor that inspires confidence. Mrs. Vance, Sarah has told me your situation. First of all, let me tell you that you are not alone in this. And second, that you have more legal foundation than you probably imagine. I sat in front of his desk. I placed my folder with all the documentation. I do not have a signed contract. You do not need it for everything. Bank transfers are documentary evidence. WhatsApp messages are digital evidence. Your personal notebook, if it is well kept, can serve as contemporary record. Besides, he stopped. He looked me directly in the eyes. Mrs. Vance, are you sure you want to do this once we initiate legal actions against your son? There is no turning back. Family relationships are marked forever. The relationship is already broken. I responded with a calm that surprised myself. It is just that I was the only one who did not see it. He nodded slowly. It is fine. Then we are going to do things correctly, step by step. He opened a laptop. First, I need you to tell me everything again, from the beginning. Do not omit anything, even if it seems irrelevant. Details matter. I spoke for 2 hours. Robert took notes nonstop. Occasionally, he asked questions. Did you ever discuss it in front of witnesses? My friends from the book club. I mentioned several times that I had lent money to David. Do you remember approximate dates? I have a diary. I can look. Perfect. Does your son have properties in his name? The house in the hills. They bought it 2 years ago. Do you know the approximate value? I saw the listing when they bought it. $1.5 million. Robert looked up. They bought a $1.5 million house while they owed you $450,000. Yes. And vehicles. April's BMW, David's Mercedes-Benz, both new. Robert whistled softly, just like Sarah. Mrs. Vance, your son not only has the means to pay you, he has the means to pay you double. I felt something strange in my chest. It was not satisfaction exactly. It was validation. During 3 years, I had felt greedy for asking for my money, and it turns out they were right. Not the money to pay me, but to live like millionaires while I rejected medical treatments. Now comes the hard part, continued Robert. We need to build a solid case. We cannot go with weak evidence. We need to be meticulous. He took out a list. This is what we are going to collect in the coming weeks. 1. All your bank statements from the last 5 years. 2. Any email where the loan or partnership is mentioned. 3. WhatsApp messages. SMS. Any digital communication. 4. Testimonies from people who know about the loan. 5. Current valuation of your son's properties and vehicles. 6, if possible, information on the financial status of his company. 7, documentation on your own finances, income, expenses, postponed medical needs. How do we get the information on David's business? Robert smiled slightly. The commercial registry is public, ma'am, and I have contacts. The following days were intense. I became a detective of my own life. I reviewed every email I had sent to David in 3 years. I found gems. Son, have you been able to review formalizing our partnership? I would like to have something in writing. His answer. Mom, we already talked about this. We do not need papers. Do you not trust me? Another email, 6 months later. David, 2 years have passed. When are we going to see profits? His answer. The business is in growth phase. You have to be patient. I cannot be worrying about this right now. I printed everything, every email, every message. I contacted my friends from the book club, Lydia, Hope, Susan. Women my age who had known me for decades. Do you remember when I told you I lent money to David? Of course, replied Lydia. We were worried. We told you to sign something. Would you be willing to testify to that? Silence on the other end of the phone. Oh, Eleanor, is it that bad? Worse. Count on us. Sarah kept her promise. She investigated David's business. Turned out it was not just him. It was Vance Imports LLC. David owned 50%. April owned 50%. I did not appear anywhere. But the most revealing thing came later. Professor, I found something interesting. Sarah called me one afternoon. A year and a half ago, they registered another company, Valley Premium Developments, also 50-50. And what does that mean? That they are diversifying, investing in real estate. And guess what they bought through that company? The lake house. Exactly, registered for $800,000. I did the math in my head. The house in the hills, the lake house, the cars, the business. David and April had a net worth of at least $3 million, and it had all started with my $450,000. There is more, continued Sarah. I checked their social media, with your permission, of course. Go ahead. In the last year, 2 trips to Europe, 1 to New York, brand name watches, designer clothes, expensive restaurants. April shows off everything on Instagram. She sent me screenshots. April in Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower, David in Rome, with a Rolex on his wrist, both on a yacht in Miami, while I ate beans from the pot to save money. Sarah, what kind of person does this? A person who has never faced consequences, Professor. Robert called a meeting 2 weeks later. Mrs. Vance, we have a solid case. Very solid. He placed a thick folder on his desk. Here is everything. The bank transfers prove you gave him $450,000 initial plus $20,000 in small loans. Total $470,000. The emails prove there was a promise of partnership, although verbal. It is documented that the agreement existed. The testimonies of your friends corroborate that you spoke of this as an investment, not a gift. Your son's current assets demonstrate ability to pay. And finally, he paused dramatically. I got something very interesting. He put a document on the desk. Income statement of Vance Imports. How did you get this? I have my methods. The important thing is what it says. The company generates monthly revenue of $150,000, net profits of approximately $40,000 monthly. $40,000 monthly, and he could not give me even $1,000. How strong is the case? Very strong. I can sue in 2 ways. First, civil lawsuit for unpaid loan. Second, if you want to be more aggressive, lawsuit for family fraud and illicit enrichment. Which do you recommend? Depends on what you want to achieve. If you only want your money, the civil one is faster. If you want them to learn a lesson. I stayed silent. Sir, I want them to learn. But I also swallowed hard. I also want my grandkids not to grow up thinking this is okay, that it is okay to use people, that it is okay to lie. Robert nodded. Then we go for both, civil lawsuit plus an ethics complaint, and we are going to ask not only for the capital, but interest. At 10% annual for 3 years, we are talking about almost $700,000. I felt slightly dizzy. That is a lot of money. It is what is fair, ma'am. They took away the possibility of investing your money those 3 years. They took away the possibility of living with dignity. That money has a cost. And if they cannot pay, then we garnish. The lake house can be sold. The cars can be sold. The company can have a lien on its accounts. I do not want to destroy them. Ma'am, with all respect, they did not have that problem destroying you. He was right. When can we start? We already started. I just need your authorization to file the lawsuit. I looked at the document in front of me. A simple signature and everything would change. I thought about David as a child, the day he was born, his first day of school, when Charles died and he hugged me saying, "Now I take care of you, Mom." But that boy no longer existed, and I had to accept it. I took the pen. I signed. "Let's do it." Robert smiled. "Mrs. Vance, I promise you we are going to recover your dignity along with your money." I left that office feeling something strange. It was not happiness, nor was it sadness. It was determination. An American mother of 67 years was about to demonstrate that respect is not begged for. It is demanded, and if they do not give it, it is taken. 2 days after signing the papers with Robert, my phone rang. It was David. My heart skipped a beat. Did he already know? Had someone told him? "Mom, how are you?" His voice sounded normal, casual. He knew nothing. "Fine, son, and you guys?" "Excellent. Look, I am calling because I need to ask you a huge favor." Of course, the favors. "April is organizing a dinner. It is extremely important. 20 potential investors. Real money, Mom. This is our opportunity to expand the business." Our opportunity, as if I were part of it. And well, you know your beef Wellington is legendary, and your handmade pies go without saying. The guests are old school, Mom. They need food that touches the soul, not those gourmet things that taste like nothing. You want me to cook? It would be perfect. April is super stressed with the organization. If you take charge of the food, it would be a load off. When is it? This Friday. Today was Tuesday. 3 days to prepare food for 20 people. Son, that's a lot of work. And the ingredients. Oh, Mom, do not worry about that. We will deposit for everything. $200. Is that okay? $200 to cook for 20 people. A caterer would charge at least $3,000. And where would it be? At the house. We need you to come early to have everything ready by 8 at night. Can you arrive like 9 in the morning? 11 hours cooking. 11 hours standing in a kitchen that was not mine. I should have said no. I should have invented any excuse. But a part of me wanted to see, wanted to confirm what I already knew. I needed that last drop that would spill the cup completely. "It is fine, David. I will be there." "You are the best mom. Love you." He hung up before I could answer. Sarah got angry when I told her. "Professor, why did you accept?" "I need to do this, one last time." "For what, to suffer more?" "To be sure, to have no doubts." She did not understand, but she accepted. On Friday, I arrived at David's house at 8:30 in the morning, half an hour early, because that was me, always responsible. April opened the door in expensive yoga pants and a lycra top. She had a green facial mask on her face. "Oh, good that you arrived. The kitchen is all yours. I left a list there of what you need to prepare." I entered the kitchen. A magazine kitchen, stainless steel appliances, granite central island, pantry full of organic spices they probably never used. The list was stuck on the fridge. Beef Wellington, large batch for 20 people. Handmade ravioli with sage butter, at least 40 servings. Shrimp cocktail appetizers, scalloped potatoes, gravy, green bean almondine, dessert, apple and cherry pies from scratch, 8 different dishes, 11 hours to make them. The ingredients were piled on the counter. April had bought them. That much was true, but she had not organized them. Meat still frozen, nothing prepped. I rolled up my sleeves, put music on my phone quietly, and began. First the roast, searing the meat, preparing the puff pastry, cooking the mushrooms for hours while it cooked. I started the pasta, dough, rolling, filling each one with care. 40 raviolis meant 40 little works of love. April came down mid-morning, already without the mask, perfect makeup, casual but expensive dress. "How's it going?" "Good, everything is on time." Perfect. I am going to the salon. I need to fix my hair for today. Call me for anything, okay? She left. Her expensive perfume remained floating in the kitchen. Matthew and Rachel came running in around noon. Grandma. What are you doing? Cooking for your parents' party, my love. Smells good, said Rachel, hugging me around the waist. Do you want to try? I gave each one a ravioli. They ate them with those faces of pure happiness that only children have. Why do you not eat with us? Asked Matthew. What? At parties, you always cook, but never eat with us. The innocent question of a 7-year-old boy. The same question I had been asking myself. Why? Because your parents decided so. It is unfair. That is life's sometimes champion. A helper arrived at 3. April had hired her to help with the service. A woman of about 40 named Rose. Are you the cook? She asked me. I am. Yes, something like that. Do you need help? Can you set the tables? Sure. We worked together in silence. Rose set plates. I finished the sauces. Is the family yours? She asked while folding napkins. My son, my daughter-in-law, my grandkids. Ah, and they hired you to cook. It was not a question. It was a statement. She had understood in minutes what had taken me years to accept. For this family, I was an employee, not a guest. David arrived at 6, impeccable suit, shiny shoes, smelled of expensive cologne. Mom. Everything looks incredible. He tried the potatoes directly from the pot. Perfect. Just like I remember. The investors are going to want more. At what time do you want me to serve? You serve. Yes. How are we going to do it? David laughed lightly. No, Mom. Rose is going to serve. You already did your part. Then, can I go? He stayed quiet, exchanged a look with April, who had just entered. Well, started April. It is just that it is a business atmosphere. Do you understand? We need the vibe to be professional. Professional. My food was good enough to serve them, but I was not good enough to be there, I understand. But look, David took out his wallet. Here are $150 for your help. I know we said $200, but think that you saved on the Uber back if you stay a little longer. $150 for 11 hours of work, for my talent, for my knowledge passed down through generations. A professional chef would have charged 10 times that. Besides, added April with that fake smile I hated, Rose can share some food with you in the kitchen. We do not want you to leave hungry. Share, as if it were charity, as if my own food was a favor they were doing me. The guests began to arrive at 8. I heard them from the kitchen. Laughter, glasses clinking. David playing his role of perfect host. Rose went in and out carrying dishes. They are fascinated. She whispered to me in one of her entries. Everyone asks who cooked. And what do they tell them? Mrs. April says they are recipes she learned from YouTube. I froze. What? Yes, she says she loves traditional cooking and has been practicing. My recipes. The recipes I learned from my grandmother, that I perfected over 40 years, that I taught my son when he was a boy. April was presenting them as hers. Something broke inside me, not dramatically, without noise, like when a rope wears down so much it finally snaps. I got up. I washed my hands. I took off my apron. I entered the dining room where everyone was, 20 people around the long table, wine glasses, laughter, my beef Wellington on elegant plates, my pasta presented as if it were art, and April at the head of the table, receiving praise. April, this is delicious. Did you really make it? Well, I like to experiment. These traditional recipes have their trick, but with dedication. I cleared my throat. Everyone turned. The silence was immediate. Good evening. Excuse the interruption. David paled. Mom, what are you doing? Just coming to say goodbye. I finished in the kitchen. Everything is ready for Rose to keep serving. An older lady, about 60, smiled at me with kindness. Are you David's mom? That is right. What a good son inviting you to his business dinner. I looked at David, then at April. Actually, I was not invited to the dinner. I was invited to cook for the dinner. The silence became denser. All these recipes that my daughter-in-law is presenting as hers. I learned them from my grandmother 50 years ago. The roast has a secret that only my family knows. The pasta has a specific ratio of flour and egg that took generations to perfect. April turned red. This is not the moment. I know, but it is important that these investors know something about my son and my daughter-in-law. David stood up. Mom, that is enough. Enough, son. I am just starting. You know I am 67 years old. You know I am an old woman who worked all her life as a professor. The older lady nodded. What you do not know is that I sold my house to give my son the initial capital for his business, $450,000, with a promise that we would be partners. Murmurs began. That was 3 years ago. I never saw a single dollar back. I never saw a contract. And tonight, after cooking for 11 hours, they paid me $150 and told me I was not appropriate for their professional atmosphere. A man with glasses intervened. Wait, David, is that true? It is. It is more complicated. It is not complicated, I continued. It is very simple. I am an unrecognized investor, an unpaid worker, and a mother who finally understood that silence is not a virtue. It is complicity with abuse. April tried to get up, but the weight of 20 pairs of eyes stopped her. Enjoy the dinner, I said finally. The food is excellent. It should be. It has 60 years of love and tradition in every bite. I turned around, walked toward the door. Rose already had my bag ready. I took the liberty. She whispered, "You deserve better than this." Thanks. Ma'am, the older woman stopped me, following me to the hall. I do not know the whole story, but I do know how to recognize dignity when I see it. Your son should be proud to have a mother like you. He should, but he isn't. Then it is his loss. I left that house for the last time, not with sadness, with clarity. The next morning, David called me 20 times. I did not answer any of them. Finally, he sent a message. Mom, what the hell was that you humiliated us in front of investors? How could you? You are ungrateful after everything we have done for you. I read the message 3 times, and I laughed. Ungrateful. I was the ungrateful one. I called Robert. Is the paperwork ready? Yes, ma'am. Do you want us to proceed? I want you to deliver the documents to him personally, tomorrow, at his office, at his house, wherever. With pleasure. And Robert, I do not want negotiation. I do not want arrangements. I want the full weight of the law. Understood, Mrs. Vance. I hung up, made myself some tea, sat on my balcony, and smiled. The war was just beginning, and this time, I had the weapons. On Monday morning, Robert called. It is done, ma'am. I personally delivered the lawsuit to your son at his office. How did he react? First, he thought it was a joke. Then he turned red. Then he tried to intimidate me. I told him I am his lawyer, not his friend, and that everything he says can be used against him. Did he read the documents? In front of me. I saw how his face changed with every page. I think he finally understood that this is serious. Good. Ma'am, prepare for what is coming. He is going to try to contact you. They are going to pressure you. They are going to use the grandkids. They are going to cry, threaten, manipulate. Are you ready? I am ready. I was not ready. The calls began that same afternoon. 50 calls from David, 30 from April, WhatsApp messages that filled entire screens. Mom, what is this? You cannot do this to us. We are family. How can you sue us? Dad would be ashamed of you. That last message hurt, but I did not back down. I responded only once. For 3 years, I asked you for respect. You gave me humiliation. For 3 years, I asked for my money. You gave me crumbs. For 3 years, I waited to be your mother. You turned me into your employee. This is not revenge, it is justice. There was no response. The next day, I received a call from an unknown number. Mrs. Vance. Yes. This is Mr. Reynolds speaking. I represent David and April Vance in the matter of the lawsuit. Ah, they already had a lawyer. That was fast. My client is willing to reach a settlement. He acknowledges that a debt exists, although not in the terms you state. Tell your client to speak with my lawyer. Ma'am, please, this can be resolved within the family without going to court. Think of your grandchildren. I think of them all the time. That is why I want them to see that actions have consequences. My client can offer you $100,000 as a single and final payment. My lawyer is asking for $700,000 plus legal costs. That is ridiculous. There was never a contract. But there were bank transfers and messages and... Ma'am. Good morning, counselor. I hung up with trembling hands. Robert was right. This was going to be harder than I thought, but I was not alone. Sarah visited me that afternoon with news. Professor, do you remember Mr. Takahashi? Of course. I did something. I hope you do not get upset. What did you do? I sent him an email in Japanese, confirming everything you had told him. I added public documentation about your son's assets, the luxury items, the properties. Sarah. It was necessary, Professor. That man is the key, and he responded. She showed me her phone, an email in perfect Japanese. Dear Sarah-san, I deeply appreciate the information. After the dinner, my evaluation of David Vance had changed considerably, but I maintained professional courtesy. What you have revealed confirms my suspicions. In my culture, a man who dishonors his mother cannot be a reliable partner. I have decided to cancel all negotiations with his company, not only for what he did to his mother, but because a business built on lies cannot sustain itself. Please convey my deepest respect to Vance-san, the mother, not the son. Her dignity in the midst of pain is worthy of admiration. With respect, Takahashi Kenji. I stared at the screen. That means I started. That your son just lost a $3 million contract over 3 years. $3 million. The contract that was going to change their lives. Sarah, what did we do? The right thing, Professor. A man of honor recognizes another, and Mr. Takahashi recognized that you are more honorable than your own son. That night, David burst into my apartment. He did not knock. He used the copy of the key I had given him for emergencies. Mom. He was furious, red eyes, messy hair, nothing like the polished businessman of always. Takahashi canceled. Canceled. Do you have any idea what you have done? I got up from my chair, calm, serene. Get out of my house, David. How could you wrote to him. You told him lies. I did not tell a single lie. Every word I said was the truth. You destroyed my business. I built your business. With my money, with my trust. You destroyed it. With your lies. April entered behind him. Makeup running, she had been crying. Mother-in-law, please, let's be reasonable. We can resolve this. I tried to be reasonable for 3 years. David let himself fall onto my sofa, head in his hands. We do not have $700,000. The lake house has a mortgage. The cars are financed, the business, with Takahashi canceling. We lost other clients who were coming by referral. Then sell it all. What? Sell the lake house, sell the cars, use the business profits, or face the garnishment. The decision is yours. You are my mother. His voice broke. Mothers are supposed to forgive. They are supposed to... Supposed to what? That I let you use me. That I shut up when you humiliate me. That I feign dementia when you accuse me of that in front of strangers. He looked up, eyes full of tears. I did not mean to. April said that. Do not blame April. You decided. You opened your mouth. You called me demented. You took my money and pretended you did it alone. I was going to pay you. When, David? When were you going to pay me? After the 3rd trip to Europe. After the 4th Rolex. Silence. You had no intention of paying me. You saw me as your ghost investor. The fool who gives money and shuts up. Is that not right? Then tell me something. I sat across from him, looking him straight in the eyes. At what moment did I stop being your mom to become your employee? He did not answer. Was it when Charles died and you no longer had to answer to him? Was it when you met April and she taught you that money is more important than honor? Or was it always like this, and I was too blind to see it? Mom! Do not call me Mom. You lost that right when you made me cook 11 hours and paid me with crumbs. When you presented my food as April's. When you sat me at a business dinner only to call me demented in Japanese. April tried to intervene. Mother-in-law, if you withdraw the lawsuit, we promise you... You promised me partnership. You promised me return in 2 years. You promised me respect. Your promises are worth nothing. Please, out of my house. Both of you. Now. David stood up slowly. He seemed to have aged 10 years in one night. Robert is going to contact your lawyer, I continued. You have 2 options, negotiate a reasonable payment plan or we see each other in court. And believe me, I have all the documentation in the world to win. And the kids? April asked. Have you thought about them? The kids will learn that dishonesty has a price. You cannot teach them a better lesson. They left, in silence, defeated. I closed the door, leaned against it, and cried. Not from sadness, from liberation. Because finally I had freed myself from guilt, from obligation, from the fear of losing something I had already lost a long time ago. Sarah called the next day. Professor, I have more news. Tell me. Mr. Takahashi not only canceled with your son, he spoke with other Japanese businessmen in his network. David's reputation in that circle is destroyed. That bad. The Japanese take family honor very seriously. A son who abuses his mother is untouchable for them. I did not want to destroy him professionally. He destroyed himself, Professor. You just exposed the truth. Robert called a week later. Your son's lawyer proposes the following. Payment of $450,000 in 4 years, $100,000 annually, no interest. Rejected. Are you sure? Completely. I want the total, with interest, in maximum 2 years or garnishment. It is going to be difficult for them. It was difficult for me to live with the minimum while they traveled to Europe. Understood. We counter-propose. $700,000 in 2 years, $29,000 monthly, if they miss a payment. Automatic garnishment. Perfect. The judge accepted the terms. David and April signed. They had no choice. The evidence was overwhelming. They had to sell April's car. They had to reduce their lifestyle drastically, and every month, like a Swiss clock. My payment arrived, $29,000 for 24 months. What was mine finally coming home? 3 months after the lawsuit started, something unexpected happened. Mr. Takahashi asked for a meeting. Mrs. Vance, I would like to speak with you. Could you receive me? I met him at a coffee shop near my apartment. I did not want anything fancy, just honesty. He arrived with that Japanese punctuality, impeccable suit, small bow when greeting me. Mrs. Vance, first I want to apologize. Apologize for what? For not having seen the truth that night? For listening to your son's lies without questioning? You had no way of knowing. A businessman must investigate his partners. I failed in that. He took a sip of his green tea. I have followed your case. Sarah-san has kept me informed. With your permission. Why are you interested? Because you remind me of my own mother. She was also a teacher. She was also betrayed by her family, but she never had the courage to defend herself. She withered in silence. His eyes moistened slightly. When she died, I found a diary. There she wrote everything she never said, all the pain she kept, and I swore that if I ever saw a similar situation, I would not be complicit with my silence. That is why you canceled with David. That is why, but also because a dishonest partner is a time bomb. What are you going to do now? Does your company need a new supplier? He smiled. In fact, I am considering working with someone else. someone who understands the true value of honor. He took a document out of his briefcase. Mrs. Vance, do you know the import market? My son explained things to me when he still spoke to me. And what did you think of the business model? Honestly, I thought he was leaving money on the table. The margins were very tight. There were unexplored niches. For example, high-quality school supplies. The educational market is growing. There is a gap between cheap domestic and expensive imported. Mr. Takahashi nodded slowly. Do you know what I like about you, Mrs. Vance? What? That 35 years of teaching gave you something your son will never have: perspective, patience, and deep understanding of the market he claims to know. Where are you going with this? I want to offer you a proposal, a partnership, real, documented, between my company and you. I was speechless. Me. You. I have the contacts in Japan. You have the knowledge of the local market. Your son built his business with your money. It is time you build yours with your knowledge. Mr. Takahashi, I am 67 years old. In Japan, that is an advantage. Wisdom, experience, credibility. He placed the documents in front of me. Partnership 50-50. Initial investment on my part, $200,000. Investment on your part, your knowledge of the educational market, your contacts from 35 years teaching, your work ethic. This is fair. And if I fail, then we fail together. But something tells me you do not fail when you commit to something. I read the documents. Everything was there, clearly. 50% partnership, defined responsibilities, shared profits, mutual respect. Everything David had promised me and never gave. Why do you do this? Because business is not just numbers, Mrs. Vance. It is honor, and you demonstrated having more honor than any young businessman I know. I signed that afternoon, and thus Premium Education US-Japan was born. The following weeks were intense. Mr. Takahashi brought the products. I activated my network of former colleagues. I offered them something no one else offered, Japanese quality at accessible prices. And I knew them. I knew what they needed before they asked. The business took off quickly. 2 months later, we were making sales of $80,000 monthly, profits of $25,000. My share, $12,500 a month. More than David paid me in returns. Sarah could not believe it. Professor, you are a successful businesswoman. I always was. It is just that no one let me do it. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. One Friday afternoon, David appeared at the office I had rented. A small office, but professional. Downtown. Mom, we need to talk. Hello, David. Make an appointment with my assistant. Your assistant? Yes, I am no longer available at just any hour. I have a business to run. He stood in the doorway, looking around. The modest but professional office, the Japanese products on display, my organized desk. What is all this? My business. Partnership with Mr. Takahashi. Do you remember him? The man you were going to scam. I was not going to scam him. You were going to lie to him about everything. That is a scam. Mom, I came because we have problems. The payments are too high. I do not know if we can keep paying $29,000 a month. You should have thought about that before. Please, I know you are angry, but think of the kids. I think of them. That is why I want them to learn that debts are paid. I do not have the money. Sell everything then, or accept the garnishment. Those are your options. How can you be so cold? I stared at him. Cold. Interesting word coming from the man who called his mother demented. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I was nervous. I wanted to impress Takahashi. And you used me as a sacrifice. Forgive me, he yelled. The tears finally came out. Forgive me, Mom. I was an idiot. I was selfish. I was everything you say, but I am still your son. Are you? Why does a son do what you did to me? Please. He let himself fall into a chair. I do not know what else to do. April left me. That surprised me. What? She left a week ago. She said she did not sign up to live middle class, that this was not what she expected. She took the kids to her mother's house. For the first time, I felt something resembling compassion. The kids. I can see them on weekends, but April is filling their heads. She tells them everything is your fault, that you destroyed our family. I did not destroy anything. I only asked for what was mine. I know, and you were right. But he looked at me with the eyes of a lost child. What do I do now? I sighed. Do you really want to know? Yes. You grow up. You mature. You accept the consequences. You stop blaming others for your decisions. I cannot pay you that much. The business is bad. We lost clients. How much can you? 10,000 a month. That is all. If you squeeze me more, I close and you get nothing. 10,000 for how long? 6 years. I did the math mentally. 720,000, more than agreed. It is fine, but it has conditions. What conditions? First, every payment on time. A single delay and we return to the original terms. Second, Matthew and Rachel see me every week, not for me to watch them for free, so they can spend time with their grandmother. Third, never, ever, do you speak badly of me in front of them again. Fourth, this arrangement is documented, with a lawyer, notary, with everything legal. I accept. And one more thing. What? You apologize to me for real, not to look good, not to obtain something, because you really understand what you did. He knelt in front of my desk. Mom, Eleanor Vance, I am sorry. Sorry for using you, for lying to you, for humiliating you, for being the worst son in the world. I do not deserve your forgiveness, but I ask for it anyway, because I love you, and because I finally understood that loving is not taking, it is giving. Tears rolled down his face, and I, who had sworn not to cry anymore, also cried. I forgive you, David, but forgiveness does not erase consequences. Debts are paid, respect is earned, and trust is rebuilt. Are you willing? Yes. Then call Robert. We signed a new agreement, and we started over, but this time as adults, not as selfless mother and leech son. He nodded, got up, hugged me. I am going to do it right, I swear on Dad. I hope so. He left, and I stayed alone in my office. Sarah entered minutes later. Did you hear everything? Yes. Are you sure, Professor? No, but children do not come with a guarantee. Sometimes you can only give them one more chance and hope for the best. And if he fails again, then I will learn that some trees never bear fruit, and I will be at peace with that. 2 weeks later, we signed the new agreement, $10,000 monthly for 6 years, and David complied, every month, like a clock, slow. But he complied. 6 months after the new agreement, my business with Mr. Takahashi had grown beyond our expectations. Premium Education US Japan not only sold school supplies, we expanded to educational furniture, classroom technology, teacher training. My knowledge of the educational system was gold. I knew what schools needed before they knew it themselves. Monthly profits reached $40,000. My share, $20,000, more than David earned in his best month. The irony did not escape me. The son who called me ignorant of business now earned less than his mother. One afternoon, Matthew and Rachel came to visit me at the office. It was part of the agreement. Every Saturday was my time with them. "Grandma, your office is pretty," said Rachel. "Thanks, my love. Dad says you are a businesswoman now." "That is right." "And what does that mean?" "It means I work on something of my own, that I make my own decisions, that I earn my own money." Matthew, who was 8 now, looked at everything with curiosity. "Is it true that Dad robbed you?" The direct question of a child, without filters, not exactly robbed, but he did take my money and did not return it as promised. "That is stealing." "You are right." "Is that why he is sad?" Is he sad? Yes, he does not smile like before. And Mom does not live with us. Rachel hugged my waist. Why are all the adults angry? I knelt to her height. Sometimes, my love, adults forget to be honest. And when that happens, there are consequences. Like when you break something and have to fix it. Did Dad break something? Yes, our trust. And now he is trying to fix it. And will he be able to? I hope so. That day, I taught them how the business worked. I showed them the products. I explained about imports, margins, clients. Matthew was fascinated. Grandma, will you teach me to do business? Why do you want to learn? To not make Dad's mistakes. 8 years old, an 8-year-old boy had already learned the lesson his father took 40 to learn. The following months brought unexpected changes. David sold his business. He could not afford to keep it and pay me. A bigger company bought it. They gave him a manager position, fixed salary, without the prestige of being an owner, but with stability. It is better this way. He told me one afternoon he came to drop off the monthly payment. I no longer have to pretend I am something I am not. And what are you? A man who made mistakes, who was trying to amend them. He had lost weight. He looked tired, but also more real, less mask. How are the kids? Good. April still does not speak to me much, but they ask me about you all the time. Do you tell them the truth? I tell them their grandmother is the strongest woman I know, that I made serious mistakes with her, and that she is teaching me to be a better person. Good. April, on the other hand, did not change. One day she appeared at my office, without warning, designer dress, perfect makeup, the same as always. Mother-in-law, we need to talk. Hello, April, how can I help you? I need money. Direct. At least that had not changed. Why would you come to ask me for money? Because David no longer earns like before. The kids need things, private school, extracurricular classes, clothes. And you do not work. I am looking, but you know how the market is. April, during 3 years, you used me. You humiliated me. You presented my food as yours. You paid me misery for hours of work. Why would you expect me to help you? Because you are their grandmother. Family. Family. What an interesting word coming from you. Look, I know we made mistakes. Mistakes plural. No April. Decisions. Conscious ones. Each one of them. Okay, you are right. We were horrible. Are you happy now? Did you win? Now help us. I'm not going to give you money, April. Why not if you have it? Because you have learned nothing. You still believe the world owes you, that your pretty face and your manipulation are enough. She turned red. You are a... Watch your words. This is my office, and I can ask security to escort you out. She calmed down a little. The kids see you every week. You are going to notice if they lack something. Are you going to allow your grandkids to suffer for your pride? And there it was, the old trick, using the kids as a shield. If Matthew and Rachel need something, I will help them directly, but not through you, and not with cash. If they need school supplies, I have contacts. If they need clothes, I can take them shopping. But I am not going to finance your lifestyle while you pretend to look for work. What am I supposed to do? What any responsible adult does. You work, you reduce your expenses, you live within your means. Easy for you to say. Easy, April. I lived with the minimum for 3 years while you traveled to Europe. I rejected medical treatments because I had no money. And all that time, my money was financing your luxuries. Do not come talking to me about difficult. She stayed quiet. Now, if you have nothing else to say, I have a meeting in 20 minutes. She got up. At the door, she turned. Do you know what is the saddest thing of all this? What? That you were right about everything, and I was too stupid to see it. She left, and for the first time I felt something resembling pity for her. Mr. Takahashi invited me to dinner one night, in the same Japanese restaurant where everything had started. Does it not bring you bad memories? I asked. On the contrary, here I met your true character, and that changed my life too. It reminded me of what my mother could have been if someone had supported her, if someone had believed in her. Your mother sounds like a wonderful woman. She was, but she never had the opportunity to show it. You did, and you took it. He raised his sake cup to second chances, and to the women who teach us that it is never too late to claim our dignity. We toasted. Mrs. Vance, I want to propose something to you. Another partnership, I joked. Something better. I want you to be the face of our company in America, the CEO. I manage the Japanese side. You manage everything here. But, no buts. You have shown that you have a better eye for this market than I do. And more importantly, you have something that cannot be bought. Earned respect. I do not know what to say. Say yes, and that you accept the salary that comes with the position. He showed me a paper, a figure that left me breathless. $45,000 monthly. This is fair for your work, for your knowledge, for your value. I accepted, and so, at my 68 years, I became the CEO of an international company. The woman who supposedly had early onset dementia now managed a multi-million-dollar business. The irony was delicious. A year and a half after everything started, David arrived with his last payment. It is number 72, he said, placing the envelope on my desk. 72. You paid faster. I sold my share of the business I had left. I did not need it anymore. I have a stable job. The kids are fine, and I wanted to close this chapter properly. I am proud of you. His eyes filled with tears. Those words I had to earn for 3 years, but today I think I finally deserve them. April changed too. We did not become friends. Probably never would be. But there was mutual respect. Mother-in-law. She told me one day, dropping off the kids, I know we are never going to be close, but I want you to know I admire what you did. You taught me that no one has the right to trample on another person, not even family. Are you okay, April? I am learning to live with less, to value work, to be a better person for my kids. That is all one can ask for. Matthew, now 11, spent his free afternoons in my office, helping, learning, grandma. When I grow up, I want to have a business with you. Why with me? Because you teach me that business is more than money. It is about honor, about treating people well, about keeping your word. Your father is learning that, too. I know, and I am proud of him, but it was you who taught us both. Rachel, 9 years old, was different, more artistic, more free. Grandma, I do not want to have a business, I want to be a painter. Then be the best painter you can be. Even if I do not make much money. My love, money is important. But do you know what is more important? Sleeping peacefully, knowing you were honest, that no one can say you trampled on someone to get where you are. That is priceless. My training center organized a graduation ceremony, 50 older women receiving their entrepreneurship diplomas. Sarah and I were on stage. Professor, do you want to say a few words? I approached the microphone. I looked at those 50 women, some with canes, others with full gray hair, all with eyes shining with hope. 4 years ago, I began. I was sitting in a Japanese restaurant listening to my son call me demented. I felt my life had ended, that at 67 years old, I no longer had anything to offer the world. Today, at 70, I run a company. I teach other women who also did not know they had value. And finally, after 7 decades of life, I understand something fundamental. I paused. You are never too old to start. You are never too old to defend yourself. You are never too old to demand respect. And never, never are you too old to claim your dignity. The room exploded in applause. Some women cried, others smiled. All knew exactly what I was talking about because each one had her own story of being underestimated, of being invisible, of being treated as if her age were a disability. After the ceremony, A woman of about 75 approached me. "Mrs. Vance, my son took my savings for his business. He promised to return them. It has been 5 years. Do you have proof?" "Bank transfers." "Then you have a case. But let me ask you something more important. Are you ready for the consequences? Because once you start this path, the relationship changes forever." "I know, but I prefer to have dignity than a son who uses me." I gave her Robert's card. "Tell him I sent you." Cases like that arrived constantly. Mothers robbed by sons, grandmothers used as free babysitters, older women treated as burdens, and each one, slowly, learning that they did not have to accept it. Mr. Takahashi retired 2 years later. He went back to Japan. But before, we had one last dinner in that same restaurant. "Vance-san, when I met you, I saw pain in your eyes. Today I see power. You gave me the opportunity when no one else would. I just opened the door. You decided to walk through it. What will you do in Japan? Rest, write, maybe start another small business. At 65, I still have time." We laughed. "And you, Vance-san, when do you retire?" "Retire, I am just getting started." Exactly. That is the difference between you and the majority. The majority sees 70 years as the end. You see it as a new chapter. I was taught well. Your son is lucky to have had such a strong teacher. He had to lose me to find me, and you had to lose yourself to find yourself. He was right. The last time I saw Mr. Takahashi, he left me a gift, a bonsai, in Japan. The bonsai represents patience, care, constant growth. Like you, it is beautiful. Care for it. And when you see it, remember that the most beautiful things take time to grow. But when they grow, they are unbreakable. The bonsai now lives in my office, next to a photo of Charles and another of Matthew and Rachel. And every morning, when I water it, I think of everything that happened, of the Eleanor I was, the one who allowed everything out of fear, of the Eleanor I became, the one who learned that love without respect is not love, of the Eleanor I will be, the one who will keep growing until the last day. David visited me recently. He brought something in his hands. What is that? Something I should have given you years ago. It was a document, partnership contract, dated 4 years ago, with my name, with his name, 50-50. This never existed, I said. I know. That is why I did it now, retroactive, so it is on record, so the world knows you were my partner, not my benefactor, my partner. David, let me finish. I also transferred to your name the 30% of the company I still have. It is not worth much, but it is yours, because it always should have been yours. I do not need it. I need it. I need you to accept, because I need to sleep knowing that. In the end, I did the right thing, even if late, even if insufficient, but the right thing. I accepted the document, thanks, son. Thanks to you for not giving up on me, for showing me that change is possible. Today, while I write this in my diary, yes, at 70, I still write in my old diary. I think of everything lived. I think of the women who write to me, the ones who say, "Thank you for teaching me I can say no." I think of the children who learned from my story, the ones who tell their parents, "Let me document this before asking for money." I think of the mothers who still stay silent, the ones who still accept, the ones who believe love is sacrifice without limits. And I want to tell you something. You are not selfish for defending yourself. You are not a bad mother for asking for respect. You are not too old to start over. You are human, and humans deserve dignity, no matter your age, no matter your story, no matter how much you have given, always, always. You deserve respect, and if you do not receive it, you have every right to demand it, even from your children, especially from your children. Because real love does not humiliate. Real love does not use. Real love does not lie. Real love respects. And if your son cannot give you that, then he needs to learn. And you need to teach, even if it hurts, even if society judges you, even if you are afraid. Because in the end, the only person you have to live with every day is yourself, and you deserve to look in the mirror and feel pride, not shame, not regret. I should not have put up with it. Pride of having been strong, of having been fair, of having been worthy. That is what I learned in these 4 years, and that is what I want you to learn too, because it is never too late. Never. That night at the Japanese restaurant, when I heard my son call me demented, I thought it was the end of my story. It turned out to be the beginning of the woman I always should have been, and now. Every morning I wake up not wondering what would have happened if I stayed silent. I wake up knowing I did not stay silent, and that makes all the difference. If this story touched something in your heart, I would love to know. Leave me a comment. Where are you watching us from? Have you lived something similar? Do you know someone who needs to hear this? Remember, like if this story made you reflect, and subscribe to the channel to continue sharing stories that remind us that it is never too late to claim our dignity, because we all deserve to be seen, to be valued, to be respected, no matter the age, no matter anything.